I hate it. It's ridiculous. All right, let's check the chat right quick. Shout out to my members, man. Corey Karhoff, Kellen Kamer. Man, you guys coming through. I know that I just bounced this on everybody, and I appreciate you showing up. I'm going to try to start scheduling these so everybody knows, but I'm working out the kinks, trying to figure out when is the best time for you guys to actually join me here and do a nice show, right? Because that's fun. I haven't actually reached the number of people that watch these shows to where I have to turn off the chat, which is great. I like the rooms the way that they are, but if they get bigger, we'll deal with that too, because that's a good problem to have. So from there, other topic that I wanted to have a conversation about was Caleb Williams. So Caleb Williams goes to Elite 11 and wins the MVP. And we have lots of discussions about whether or not he should have been named Elite MVP, because Trent Dilfer says to the quarterbacks that competed in the competition, 75% of your evaluation is your junior film, which is to say that not a whole hell of a lot of what you did in those 3 days at that camp actually mattered as to who was going to be named Elite 11 MVP. And as guys like Kyle McCord and guys like Brock Vandegrift and Ty Thompson all showed out, Tyler Macon, you were thinking maybe one of those guys could be Elite 11 MVP. No, it was always going to be Caleb Williams based on his junior tape. So we had some dispute about that. And if nothing else, the guys behind Williams closed the gap on him as the number one quarterback in the 2021 cycle. Now, about a month later, we get QB Collective, right? And at QB Collective, Caleb Williams was joined by Kyle McCord, Drake May, Garrett Nussmeier, Jake Garcia, and Tyler Buchner. Now, Buchner is still the one guy here that everybody wants to see something done with, because Garrett Nussmeier, you know what you're going to get. The same thing with Jake Garcia, who's transferred to Valdosta State because California's not going to have high school football in the fall. And Drake May continues to show out. He's headed to North Carolina, and Kyle McCord, of course, is committed to Ohio State. But at 6'10", 210 pounds, the five-star out of Gonzaga College in Washington, D.C. was evaluated by former quarterback in the NFL, Sage Rosenfeld. Now, say what you want about Rosenfeld, but he actually might be a better evaluator and coach than he is a player, which wouldn't make him any different than most good head coaches. But here was his evaluation. Everyone knows Caleb's story. Such a mature athlete for a young age. Super strong arm. Really strong athlete. Great thrower. I wouldn't even say he's a dual threat athlete. He's a thrower, but if he ends up on one of those teams where they run the ball a little more, he'd be great at that too. He has a running back's body in some ways, very smart, and the game and the sport is not going to be too big for him. He added this: he understands the big picture really well. Since I've known him since he was a freshman, he's always had that sort of mentality, and that's why he's here. Every day he works, he knows what he's trying to get done. He's not just doing drills to do drills or trying to impress people. He's trying to get better every single day. I think he's going to be a phenomenal college quarterback. It's not bad, right? Now, there's a lot to unpack there, but most of what you're learning is that Caleb Williams will study, Caleb Williams will work, and those are two things that you're going to need to succeed in college, let alone in the NFL. And he's chosen Oklahoma because Lincoln Riley is a quarterback guru. The last three guys to start for him have been Heisman finalists. Two of those guys have won Heisman trophies. The guy that did not finish second in the Heisman balloting. He is the first quarterbacks coach and coordinator and head coach to put 3 consecutive quarterbacks in the first 2 rounds of the NFL draft and the common draft area. That's when the NFL and the AFL merged together to create one draft in 1969, I believe. You know what you're getting in Riley, and obviously if Riley picked a quarterback, you feel real good about that guy as a neutral. You're going, okay, he must be good. That's the other reason why I think Georgia has to feel really good about Brock Vandegrift. Because Vandegrift was Lincoln Riley's first choice. Like Cam Rising was his first choice in 2018, settles on Tanner Mordecai. Rising flips to Texas, ends up at Utah. Now we're talking about the second choice going to Oklahoma and the first choice going to Georgia. Brock Vandagriff is out of Prince Avenue Christian in Bogart, Georgia, and he looks the part, and he slings it well, and he moves well. If Todd Monken is still there, because Todd Monken is iterant as an offensive coordinator, that's the one dig about him. As a coach, he's been at Oklahoma State, Southern Miss, Cleveland, and Georgia just in the last 6 years. But if he is still there at Georgia by the time Brock Vandagriff is able to win the job, I would be excited to watch that scheme, because Todd Monken comes from Cleveland last year, where Nick Chubb was one of the best running backs in all of the NFL. Baker Mayfield is the quarterback. He had Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham Jr. to play with, along with David Njoku when he was ready to go and healthy. At Georgia, he arguably has a better offensive line to work with. And if he finds someone to complement George Pickens at wide receiver, good luck. Because the backs that they have there now and the backs that they have coming in are only going to get better. From Zamir White to Kenny McIntosh to Kendall Milton to Dajan Edwards, you can keep going, right? And then add to that James Cook, who can play slot or tailback and is really a Joe Mixon type of player. Now think about what they might be able to bring in here in the next couple of years, and you get real quick to why Georgia is going to probably win a national championship in the next, if not this year, the next 4 years. They're that stacked. Brock Vandagriff comes into that and could either put you over the top or keep you where you want to be, provided that store-brand Cam Newton or JT Daniels are enough to get Georgia where they want to go. Okay, so from there we go to Will Hewlett over at QB Collective, who had this to say about Caleb Williams and his skill set. Put all the physical traits and that stuff aside, he is one of the more impressive throwers I've seen. Just the pure intensity that the ball comes out of his hand, it turns heads. I got to watch former 5-stars DJ Uiagalelei, Bryce Young, and Justin Fields at QB Collective, and just the way it comes out of Caleb's hand is wow. There is an intensity in his movement. I haven't ever seen him do anything half speed. Everything is game speed. Oklahoma is getting a kid that I think is right on par with the top level of quarterbacks we've seen here. He's going to have his own unique traits that separate him from those guys, but he can make any throw, work a full progression, and then be a threat with his lower body. He's as good as any pro-style quarterback out there. If he couldn't run, I think he'd be highly rated. If he couldn't run, I think he'd be highly rated. That tells me a lot, right? That is the number 4 player in the top 247 sports composite, regardless of position, which is saying a lot, right? Because we give quarterbacks the benefit of the doubt in a way that we don't other skill positions. There's an argument to be made last year that Ohio State's Julian Fleming is a better all-around prospect than defensive tackle Brian Brzee, quarterback DJ Uiagalelei, and quarterback Bryce Young. ESPN seemed to think so, especially to a degree, right? So with quarterbacks, you got to take what you're getting on that. But I found that to be interesting.